Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Time Traveler's Handbook. We are talking about episode 3 of the Doctor Who specials in between season 4 and 5. It is titled The Waters of Mars. Spoilers ahead for that. This is the last 10th Doctor episode that we will be talking about before he regenerates into the 11th Doctor in the next two-parter. The Waters of Mars is a special episode that came out in the final series of specials centered around the 10th Doctor. The story is set on Mars in 2059 in the first human colony on Mars, which is commanded by Captain Adelaide Brooke, a pivotal character in the history of humanity. Knowing her fate and knowing what happens on this colony, the Doctor must decide whether or not to change her fate or preserve history. This is yet another episode that highlights the structure of the universe and a dilemma that the Doctor has to decide on. In essence, Adelaide influences the future in such a drastic way that her not dying would result in everything changing for the future of humanity. A lot of this stuff we have talked about before. If he does change the event, he'd just be branching the future off in an entirely different direction, which could change the future of humanity as a whole, but this goes against his nature as a person who helps other people and saves people's lives. The decision is between saving lives and maintaining history, his two primary inner conflicts throughout the series. Since we have already talked about it, I'll go right to the end of the episode. The Doctor tells Captain Adelaide what he knows about her fate and why he can't interfere, but his good nature results in him returning to the base after leaving and saving her life, as well as the two other crewmates that are still alive. He returns them to Earth, declaring that he has the power to change the future of the human race and that no one can stop him. Adelaide, who fundamentally disagrees to this approach that the Doctor has taken and has come to terms with her own death, steps into her home and kills herself, fulfilling her prophecy that she dies this day and not influencing the future drastically as it would have. This is a perfect example of fatalism in action. The Doctor, no matter how good intentioned he was, could not save Adelaide's life, even if the fate of humanity was at stake. And it was. The event of her death must always necessarily happen, and even though she isn't killed by the threat on Mars, she takes matters into her own hands, and her fate is fulfilled. In a fatalistic universe, fates cannot be avoided, but the methods in which you get there can be. Now, Doctor Who has a lot of things in it that kind of contradict this, but essentially, if the world really were fatalistic, if it were a true fatalistic universe, then this is exactly how it would play out. Adelaide would die no matter what the Doctor did, and there would be nothing he can do to save her. Of course, Doctor Who is a little bit more complicated than a simple fatalistic universe, and we'll see in other episodes that it kind of breaks this rule on a pretty large scale. This is the end of the 10th Doctor. He has 2 more episodes, but those episodes in particular don't have a lot to say that I'm not going to talk about later. We'll be starting off again with the 11th Doctor next time we come to Doctor Who. We may take a little bit of a break before we go back to Doctor Who, but it will just be very slight. We will continue on with Doctor Who as soon as we can. The 10th Doctor has always been my favorite, and there have been moments where the other Doctors after it shine just a little bit here and there. Makes me really love them as well, but there's so much to this whole 4-season arc that was crafted here that I grew up with watching it unfold, and it's been a real joy to go back through those Doctor Who episodes that I grew up with and love and find these things that I'm passionate about now that I didn't really explore a lot before. We'll see you next time, and as always, thank you for listening.